Okay. Okay. 162. Okay. Okay. Param Bhagavata Sakam. Sakshat Krida Parampara Sadanubhavitum Tairhi Vaikuntho Pekshiyate Kvachit. But in Vaikuntha, devotees always relish ongoing pleasure pastimes in the very company of the Lord. Therefore, devotees sometimes prefer to live there. Why single out Vaikuntha and its residents for praise if devotees of Vishnu on the earth are equally glorious? With this in mind, Tatraha Paramiti Dvabhyam. In order to answer this question, this and the next text are being spoken. Because although the pure Vaishnavas reveal on earth the glories of devotion service, only in Vaikuntha the devotees enjoy the company of the husband of the goddess of fortune in endless varieties of ecstatic pastimes. These loving reciprocations appear in Vaikuntha and nowhere else. Tatraiva tatha tat tat sahaja siddher natu anyatra kvapi. For that reason, Vaikuntha has received its name. Evam eva avirata tat rasa parampara kunthatta rahityena tasya lokasya Vaikunthatvam siddhyati bhava. The implication is Vaikuntha has received its name Vaikuntha because the rasas never stop manifesting. It is a world where no one ever feels the anxiety, kuntatha, of not tasting the perpetual flow of devotional rasa. When the personality of Godhead momentarily disappears from the external or internal sight of his devotees in Vaikuntha, his disappearance only increases their eagerness to see him and be with him. So note that there are two states in Prema Bhakti. When one serves Krishna in union or he serves Krishna in separation. But in either case, the flow of Prema Bhakti Rasa continues uninterruptedly. It is only the flavor which changes. It's like a child on the lap of his mother. Whether his eyes are closed by the mother or whether the child is allowed to see the mother. In either case, he's on the lap of the mother. So one is with Krishna in Vaikuntha, but and he experiences the flavor of Prema Bhakti continuously. In Vaikuntha, even the Lord's absence increases his devotees' awareness of him and their enjoyment of rasa. Ato hi sarve tatratya mayokta sarvatodhikah daya vishesha vishayah krishnasya param priyah. That is why I say that the residents of Vaikuntha are greater than everyone else as the objects of Krishna's special mercy. There is most beloved devotees. The Vaikuntha Vasis are greater than liberated Vaishnavas in the material world, among whom Lord Shiva counts himself. Certainly, they are greater than devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who have not yet attained Vaikuntha. The reason for their various manifest glories, Lord Shiva argues, must be Lord Vishnu's favoring them more than others. So this is the prime reason. They must be his dearest servants. That is his logical inference. Then Parvati Devi speaks. Shri Parvatyavacha Tatrapi Shrir Visheshena Prasiddha Shri Hari Priya Tadrig Vaikuntha Vasinam Ishwari Hiya. Shri Parvati said, furthermore, among them all, the goddess Shri is famous as especially dear to the Lord. She is indeed the ruling goddess of Vaikuntha and its residents. Lord Shiva's consort Devi is a partial expansion of Lord Vishnu's consort Shri. When Parvati heard her husband praise Vaikuntha without mentioning the queen of Vaikuntha, Parvati became somewhat disturbed. She therefore took the liberty to speak out. Lakshmim Priyasakhim Parvatyaha. Parvati spoke about Lakshmi, her very dear friend. Everyone who knows the goddess Shri knows that she is the beloved wife of Lord Vishnu. Indeed, one of her names is Haripriya. Even in Vaikuntha, Mahalakshmi is known as Sri Haripriya. She is worshipped with reverence by all the Vaikuntha Vasis. Visheshena Adhikyena Krishnasya Paramapriya iti Purvena Ivanvayah. Specifically, she is dearmost to Krishna. To uphold the claim that Lord Vishnu's consort Shri is his most favored devotee, Parvati will now describe her greatness in more detail. Tesham Sarvesham Api Ishwari Parama Pujaniya. She is most worshipable by all the residents of Vaikuntha. This he Nishchitam Yukta Yuktya Pramanya, because there are logical reasons for this conclusion. Yasyah Katakshapatena Lokapala Vibhutayah Jnanam Viraktir Bhaktischa Siddhyanti Yad Anugraha. Her mercy expands wherever she casts her sidelong glance. Thus, the rulers of the various planets obtain their powers, their knowledge, their detachment, and their devotion. According to Mother Parvati, the demigods are powerful only by the blessings of the goddess Shri. It is thanks to Shri that the demigods correctly understand the relative positions of God and the finite living entities, that they have given up interest in material enjoyment and liberation, and that they have become devotees of the personality of Godhead. As Durvasa Muni told Indra in the Vishnu Purana, Yata Sattvam Tato Lakshmi Sattvam Bhutyanusari Cha Nishrikanam Kutah Sattvam Viratenam Gunah Kutaha. Where there is patience, opulence arises, and patience also follows opulence. But how can those not favored by the goddess Shri have patience? And without patience, how can they have good qualities? In the same chapter of the Vishnu Purana, Lord Indra offered the following prayer to Lakshmi. Yajnavidya, Mahavidya, Gukhyavidya cha Shobhane, Atmavidya cha Devitvam, Vimukti Phaladayini. O resplendent goddess, you personify the ultimate knowledge of sacrifice, of material nature, of the secrets of devotional service, and of perfection for the soul. You are the giver of ultimate liberation. Ultimate liberation is pure devotional service. which is ruled by the consort of the Supreme Person and gained by a fortunate soul only when she recommends that soul to the Lord. That is from Gopi Brahman Prabhu. Shri Sanatana Goswami notes, Vibhuti, Virakti, Bhagavad Bhakti, Jnana, Brahma Jnana, Datritva, Kravenaktam. One by one, she provides each of these benedictions, opulences, detachment, devotion, service unto the Supreme Lord, knowledge of the distinctions between the Supreme Lord and the living entities, spiritual realization, Chaturvidya Rupatva, Chaturvarga Datritvam, Tatha Vimukti Phalam Bhakti. She has 4 forms because there are 4 types of knowledge: Yajna Vidya, Mahavidya, Guhya Vidya, Atma Vidya. Ultimately, he provides bhakti, the result of vimukti, ultimate liberation. Ya vihaya adarenapi bhajamanan bhavadrishan vavre tapobhir aradhya nirapeksham chatam priyam. Ignoring people like you who worship her with great respect, she vowed to undergo severe penances to worship her beloved Lord, even though he was indifferent to her. Only devotion service to the Supreme Lord can attract the attention of the goddess Lakshmi, who worships Lord Narayana with pure devotion. Idanim tasya sarva nairapikshena kevalam parama premna bhagavad bhajanam mahatmya visheshamaha. Now, specifically, Parvati Devi points out her special glories. Because she engages in devotion service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, simply out of exclusive love for him, being absolutely indifferent to anything else. She willingly accepts any difficulty and any menial service to please him, although he, being satisfied in himself, does not need anyone's help to fulfill his desires. Many Vaishnavas look to Mother Lakshmi's example of perfect surrender, hoping to follow in her footsteps. The wives of the Kaliya snake, for example, prayed to Sri Krishna. Kasyanubhavosya navdeva vidmahe tavangri renus parashadhikaraha yadvanchaya shrir lalana charat tapo vihaya kama suchiram dhrita vrata. O Lord, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya has attained this great opportunity of being touched by the dust of your lotus feet. For this end, the goddess of fortune performed austerities for centuries, giving up all other desires and taking austere vows. Why does the Supreme Lord accept her? Tathapi varane hetuhu priyam. Why does she accept the Supreme Lord? That is the question here. Because he is dearmost to her. Etadrishasya katham praptisya. How could one attain such a person? Tapobhihi. Through austerities. Vichitra sevaya. Austerity in the form of varied services. Bhagavad Visheka Chittai Kagratabhir Aradhya. Or by worshipping him with single pointed focus. And for that, there is evidence in the 10th canto in the prayers of the Nagapatnis. The Supreme Goddess Mahalakshmi is the eternal beloved of the Lord of Vaikuntha. She does not have to worship him to achieve him. But her expansions descend as avatars to accompany the various incarnations of Narayana. And some of these avatars of Mahalakshmi, such as the daughter of Bhrugumuni, are described in Vedic scriptures as performing penances to obtain the Lord as their husband. Karoti vasatim nityam ya ramye tasya vakshasi pativratotama shesha avatare shwami yatyamam. This most perfect of chaste wives resides forever on his beautiful chest and follows him in all his incarnations. One of Sri Mahalakshmi's expansions is the Lakshmi, who controls and dispenses the opulences of this material world. Those who seek this Lakshmi's grace know from their experience that she is fickle and Chala, but the original Lakshmi is never unsteady in her devotion to Lord Narayana. She always stays in his company, residing on his chest and following wherever he goes. Evam yatha jagat swami devadevo janardana avataram karotyesha tatha shris tat sahayini. Just as the Lord of the universe, the God of gods, Janardhan, descends to this world, so does his helpmate, the goddess Shri. Devatve devadeheyam manushyatve chamanushi Vishnur dehanu rupam vai karotyesha atmanastanu. When he appears as a demigod, she appears as a goddess. When he becomes a human man, she becomes a human woman. She accepts for herself a body that exactly corresponds to whatever body Lord Vishnu assumes. Ramyati vistirnatvadi parama saundaryokya vasa sukham uddishtam. Here the word Ramya, Ramye, is stated on his beautiful chest. That indicates that it is broad and it is supremely beautiful. So it is a happy place of residence for her. Narada wants to visit Vaikuntha. Shri Parikshitu Vacha Tatah Paramaharshena Shobhitatma Lappan Munihi Jaya Shri Kamalakanta He Vaikuntha Pate Hare. Parikshit said, then the sage, his mind vibrating with extreme delight, called out, glories to you, O husband of the goddess Kamala, O Hari, Lord of Vaikuntha. Jaya Vaikuntha Loketi Tatratya Jayate Ticha. Jaya Krishna Priye Padme Vaikuntha Adhishwari Tyapi. Glories to you, O Vaikuntha world. Glories to all who live there. And glories to you, O Padma, Lord Krishna's beloved, O presiding goddess of Vaikuntha. Anapa Uchaira Vocha. He spoke all this loudly. Having heard Lord Shiva and Parvati's description of the glories of Vaikuntha, its residence and its presiding goddess, having heard a description of the special glories, Narada was overwhelmed with ecstasy. Although the Supreme Person was currently present on earth in Dwaraka, Narada forgot this and wanted to go at once to Vaikuntha. Expressing his ecstasy, he first praised Lord Narayana, then his kingdom and its residence, and at last, the greatest devotee in Vaikuntha, Sri Mahalakshmi. Tatra Tadrishya Mahalakshmiya Swamitvena Aso Bhagavad Stutir Ardhena. Here he has glorified her, he has glorified the Supreme Lord as the husband of Mahalakshmi in half a verse. Tatas tat kripa bhara aspadattvena Vaikunthasya tad vasinamcha tatah sarvataha paramotkarshanishtha drishta Mahalakshmi ati vivechaniya. And then he glorifies Vaikuntha as being heavy with her mercy. Then he glorifies the residents of Vaikuntha. And he has seen the supreme position, supreme exalted position of Mahalakshmi. Atha Athabhinandanayasya Vaikunthe Gantum Utsitaha Abhipretya Harenoktah Kare Dhritva Nivaryasah. Then, wanting to visit Vaikuntha and personally offer respects to the goddess of fortune, Narada stood up. Seeing this, Lord Shiva took him by the hand to stop him. Lord Shiva then spoke. From the words Narada was speaking and from how he turned his eyes upwards, Lord Shiva could understand that Narada intended to visit Vaikuntha and personally offer respects to the goddess Mahalakshmi. So he wanted to glorify her. It is you who is most dear to Krishna. You are the greatest reservoir of Krishna's mercy. So by the way he was speaking about the glories of Vaikuntha and so on, Lord Shiva, he understood that he wanted to go. So he caught his hand. Nivarya karagrahanena iva atra tatra gamane nishidhya sa Narada uktaha. By doing this, Narada would neglect an even better opportunity. That is from Gopi Pranangu. Shiva reminds Narada that Krishna is present on earth. In Mahesha Vacha, Krishna Priya Janalokot Sukata Vihata Smrite Nakim Smarasi Yad Bhumau Dwarakayam Vasatyasau. Sri Mahesha said, my dear Narada, because of your eagerness to see the dearest devotees of Krishna, you have lost your memory. Don't you remember that the Lord of Vaikuntha is living right now on earth in Dwaraka? Narada is not to be blamed for being distracted by the glories of the Lord of Vaikuntha and his consort, because Narayana and Mahalakshmi are indeed the all-attractive supreme couple. Evamatra tava kopina doshaha. You are not at fault. Tasyaiva idrishah paramamohanatvad iti bhavaha. The Supreme Lord, as the husband of the goddess of fortune, is supremely enchanting. Therefore, you were attracted. That is the implication here. But Narada could now see the same Narayana and Mahalakshmi without having to travel so far. Rukmini sa Mahalakshmi, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, Tasyam Shavatarahi Vamanadi Samipataha. Queen Rukmini is the supreme goddess of fortune herself, and Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. Rukmini's partial incarnations accompany Lord Vamana and the other avatars of the Lord. In case Narada has any doubt that the goddess Mahalakshmi is appearing with Sri Krishna, Lord Shiva reminds Narada that she is descended as the daughter of King Bhishmaka. Still, Narada might raise the doubt that Sri Mahalakshmi never leaves the side of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. Lord Shiva answers this by quoting the assertion given in the Bhagavatam, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna as he appears on earth is that original personality of Godhead. But why then is Lakshmi sometimes seen in the company of incarnations of the Lord, such as Sri Vamana, the 1,000-headed Mahapurusha, and Kapila Deva? Because these Lakshmis are avatars of Mahalakshmi, Vaikunteshwari, the queen of Vaikuntha. That original goddess of fortune, the dearest devotee of the Lord in Vaikuntha, has descended to Dwaraka as Queen Rukmini. So in this way, Evam Vaikunteshwarya Mahalakshmiya Mahimapi Saditaha is established the glory of the Queen of Vaikuntha, Mahalakshmi. Sampurna Paripurnasya Lakshmir Bhagavatah Sada Nishevate Padam Bhoje Shri Krishna Syaiva Rukmini. Rukmini is the perfectly complete divine consort of the complete personality of Godhead. She always serves at Shri Krishna's lotus feet. Tarhi Krishna Parshvepi Tadrishyeva Lakshmi Rastu. Okay. Then what kind of Lakshmi is this? This is the perfectly complete consort of the complete personality of Godhead. Because Sri Krishna is not a mere incarnation of Vishnu, but the source of all incarnations, Srimati Rukmini is equally supreme. She is the source of all goddesses of fortune. So both of them are equally complete. Lord Shiva praises Prahlad. Tasmad Purusham Brahman Rahasyam Paramam Shanai Karne te Kathayam Yekam Paramashraddhayashrana. Sit down, my dear Brahmana, and I shall whisper in your ear a great secret. Please hear this with absolute confidence. Since the original personality of Godhead and his original consort have appeared on earth, Narada should put aside his eagerness to run off to Vaikuntha and should just sit for a minute to hear what more Lord Shiva has to say. Nor should Narada run immediately to Dwaraka without first listening to Lord Shiva's confidential advice. Because what Lord Shiva wishes to say should not be heard by everyone, not even by his personal associates. He wants to whisper it into Narada's ear, thus also avoiding the possibility of displeasing Parvati, who is a close friend of Mahalakshmi's. Evam tava abhipreta arthaha dwaraka gamanena na siddhyate. The purpose that you intend to, the goal that you intend to achieve cannot be accomplished by going to Dwaraka. Mahalakshmiya api taya atmana sakasha Shri Prahladas yaiva shreshtataya vakshamanatvat iti bhava. Because Shri Prahlad will be presented as being dearer to the Lord than even Mahalakshmi. What? Tatato mad garudaditascha shriyopi karunya vishesha patram prahlada eva pratito jagatyam krishnasya bhakto nitaram priyascha. There is a greater recipient of Krishna's mercy than your father, me, and other servants like Garuda, and even the goddess of fortune. His name is Prahlad. He is famous throughout the world as the dearmost devotee of Krishna. Now, these are all very explicitly presented in Srimad Bhagavatam. Do not expect to fulfill your intentions by visiting Dwaraka just now. Lord Shiva is telling Narada. There is a devotee in this world even greater than the supreme goddess of fortune, and that is Prahlad. Before going anywhere else, you should visit him. Because Prahlad's devotion to the Supreme Lord is so deep, he is exceptionally dear to the Lord. He is greater than all the Lord's servants in Vaikuntha, including Garuda and Vishwaksena, and even Lakshmi. Bhagavad Vachanani Tvam Kim no Vismritavanasi Athitani Puraneshu Shlokam Etam Nakim Smare. Surely you haven't forgotten the Supreme Lord's words about this. You must have read them in the Puranas and must remember the following verse. Naham atmanam ashase madbhaktai sadhuvir vina shriyam atyantikam vapi yesham gatiraham para. Without saintly persons for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss or my supreme opulences. This verse spoken by the Supreme Lord to Durvasa Muni in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is cited here to establish the greatness of the Vaishnavas in general. The personality of Godhead derives great satisfaction from his pure devotees on the earth and elsewhere. And in contrast, he is not as much attracted to his own consort in Vaikuntha or the imperishable opulences she creates for his pleasure. Nor is he much attracted by his own beauty. Atmanam Srimurtimapi na ashase na sprayami na abhinandami va. He does not hanker for his own beautiful form, or he's, or we cannot say that he's happy with his own form. As the Lord further told Durvasa, Aham bhakta paradhino kya swatantra vid vija sadhavir grasta hridayo bhaktair bhaktajana priyaha. I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent. Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires, I sit only within the course of their hearts. What to speak of my devotees? Even the devotees of my devotees are very dear to me. Mayi nirbaddha hridaya sadhava samadarshinaha vashe kurvanti mam bhaktya satsriya satpatim yatha. As chaste women bring their gentle husbands under control by service, pure devotees who are equal to everyone and completely attached to me in the core of the heart, bring me under their full control. Uddhava heard similar words from Sri Krishna. Na tatha me priyatama atmayonir na shankaraha na cha sankarshano na shrir naivatma cha yatha bhavan. My dear Uddhava, neither Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Sankarshana, the goddess of fortune, nor indeed my own self is as dear to me as you. Asyarthaha. The meaning is this. Sanatana Goswami comments that Sri Krishna in this verse from the Bhagavatam meant to make the general statement that no one else is as dear to him as his pure devotees. But because Krishna became so ecstatic thinking about the specific glories of his devotees, instead of saying my devotee, he unintentionally said, you, Uddhava. Atma Shri Murtirapi Bhakta iti Vaktavye Swabhakta Mahatmya Vishesha Akhyana Avirbhuta Harsha Bhara Vaivashyena Bhavan Ityukta. He wanted to say my devotee, but he became so ecstatic thinking about the specific glory of devotees like Uddhava. And therefore he said, like you. Here Uddhava represents various exalted pure devotees of Krishna. Mandadi Devata Yone, Nija Bhakta Vinodakrit, Sri Murtirapi Sa Yebhyo Napekshya, Kuto Naututan. The Lord's divine personal form is the source of all the demigods, including me, and gives great pleasure to his devotees. But the Lord considers his own body worthless compared to the value of his devotees. Who is fit to praise the Lord's devotees? This is his conclusion, Phalitamaha. This verse and the next verse. The demigods headed by Shiva, Brahma, and Indra all originate from the creator of the universe, the Supreme Lord's Mahapurusha incarnation. That Mahapurusha form of Vishnu is a direct expansion of Lord Narayana. In another sense of the word Yoni, Narayana himself is the shelter of all created and non-created beings. His personal form is superior, therefore, to the glorious, worshipable forms of all the demigods. The Lord's all-attractive beauty delights his servants like Shesha and Garuda, who enjoy taking part in his pastimes. The opulence and sweetness of the Lord's Srimurti cannot be completely described in words. However, in the opinion of the personality of Godhead himself, his own opulence and sweetness are unworthy of attention compared to the greatness of his pure devotees. Who can adequately glorify the unalloyed Vaishnavas? No one. Sa Saundarya Madhuryadi Mahimna Parmanir Vachaniya. The form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so great. It is supremely indescribable in words, because of the beauty, sweetness, and other specific glories. Tatrapyashesha bhaktanam upaman tayoditaha sakshat bhagavataiva sau rahlado tarkya bhagyavan. Moreover, among those countless devotees, Prahlad stands out as the example of perfection. The Lord himself has described him in this way. Prahlad's good fortune is inconceivable. Evam samanyena bhakta tayaiva brahmadibhya swasmadapi sakashan mahatmya. So in general, as a devotee, he is greater than Brahma and others. He's been stated to be greater even than Lord Shiva. Idanim visheshena Shri Shesha Garudadibhyopi Mahatma Visheshamaha. But now he states that Prahlad Maharaj is specifically more glorious than Shri, the goddess of fortune, Shesha, Ananta Shesha, Garuda, the Lord's vehicle, and others. Prahlad is one of the rare Vaishnavas described in the previous verse who have no trace of material motivation. The Supreme Lord cherishes such pure devotees more than his own self, what to speak of Brahma and other demigods. Furthermore, as the present verse states, Prahlad's surrender is especially complete, conferring on him a devotional position superior to that of pure devotees such as Shesha and Garuda. His good fortune is unique among Vaishnavas, as the Lord has declared to him. Bhavanti purusha loke madbhaktas tvam anuvratah bhavan me khalu bhaktanam sarvesham pratirupadhrik. Those who follow your example will naturally become my pure devotees. You are the best example of my devotee, and others should follow in your footsteps. Teshu vibhakta ganeshu madhye atarkyam tarkayitumabhi ashakyam yad bhagyam sobhagyam bhagavad kripa vishesha patrata lakshanam tadvan. Even amongst the devotees of the Supreme Lord, Prahlad Maharaj was characterized by a certain inconceivable good fortune, a sort of good fortune that cannot even be understood through logical inference, through argumentation. The good fortune of being a special object of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Parama Maha Saubhagya Vatvena Shreshtatara Ityartha. He is better than the others because of having this kind of extreme great good fortune. Tacha Bhagavad Utyaiva Pramanayati. And Lord Shiva is speaking that on the basis of the Lord's own statement. And that particular statement is this statement from the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Asyartha Tvam Anugata Ye Keshit Purusha Tepi Evam Lakshana Bhavanti. All men who follow you will also develop characteristics like this. Madbhakta Bhavanti. They will become my devotees. Ato Bhavan Khalu Me Bhaktanam Sarvesham Upama Aspadam Shreshtaha Ityardaha. So you are the best object of comparison for all devotees. All of my devotees will follow you. That is the idea. Asya Saubhagyam Asmabhi Sarvair Lakshmyapi Anuttamam Sakshad Hiranya Kashipur Anubhutam Vidarane. When the Lord tore apart Hiranyakashipu, all the demigods and the goddess Lakshmi witnessed with our own eyes the incomparable good fortune of Prahlad. Nanu tathapi tasya daitya jatitvadinam arvachinatvadina cha Shri Garudadhibhyo Mahalakshmitaha cha Shreshtam katham ghattattam. How is it possible that Prahlad is counted as being better than Garuda and others? As well as Mahalakshmi. He is born in a Daitya dynasty, and he is recent. Only now, from the perspective of eternal time, it's very recent. He's young. In Vedic conception, old is gold, and young is always considered to be immature. The word arvachina in Sanskrit means recent. It also means immature. Prachina in Sanskrit means old, and it also means authoritative. Lord Shiva, Brahma, and many other demigods and devotees headed by Lakshmi Devi and Garuda witnessed the killing of Hiranyakashipu by Lord Narasimha. With such substantial first-hand evidence for the Lord's special kindness to Prahlad, no one should think that Prahlad's birth in a family of demons disqualified him from being a Vaishnava. The Lord's appearance for the sake of Prahlad is further described in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 8. This was directly experienced by us, Sakshat Anubhutam. Sakshat Anubhutatvad atra vachana yadyapeksha nastiti bhava. It is implied. There's no need for having to depend on authoritative statements or logical inference and so on. Because we directly experienced, we saw that Prahlad was given the greatest mercy by the Supreme Lord. Tattad visheshascha saptamaskande prahladopakyane devastutyad adhyayataha vidyeyaha. Details can be found in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that deals with the narration of Prahlad in the chapter which contains the prayers of the Devas. That is Canto 7, Chapter 8. Punar varanditsur vishnur muktim na yachitaha bhaktireva vritayena prahladam tam namamyaham. This is also this is a verse. It's a scriptural verse. Lord Vishnu several times tried to offer him boons, but Prahlad refused to ask to be liberated. Instead, he chose only pure devotion. I bow down before him. This verse, quoted from the Narayana Vyuhastava, it's from Narayana Vyuhastava, highlights the exclusiveness of Prahlad's devotion to the Supreme Lord. Paramashraishtya lakshanameva darshayitum ado muktyapeksheya parama bhakti nishtha mahatmyamaha punariti. In order to point out the characteristics of Prahlad being supremely exalted, he first of all points out the glory of Prahlad Maharaj's steadfastness in pure love for the Lord, rather than being attached to liberation. Evam Shloka Sri Narayana Vyuhastava Varti. This verse appears in Sri Narayana Vyuhastava. Lord Narasimha tried hard to entice Prahlad with liberation, just to let others see Prahlad's resolve to stay fixed in pure devotion. The words punah, punah, again and again, can be understood in several logical contexts. The idea may be, as given in this translation, that Lord Narasimha offered Prahlad liberation several times, or else it may be that Prahlad repeatedly asked for pure devotion, or else Prahlad asked for pure devotion in his repeated future births. Prahlad expresses his last idea in his prayer to Lord Narasimha, recorded by Parashara Muni in Sri Vishnu Purana. Natha yoni sahasreshu yeshu vrajamyaham teshu teshu achyuta bhakti rachutastu sadatvai. O Master, in all the thousands of words through which I must wander in this world, please let me have unfailing devotion to you, the infallible Supreme Lord. Prahlad's readiness to be born again thousands of times means that he is not at all interested in liberation. He had rejected from a far distance any desire for liberation. Now, Maryada lankakatsyapi guru adesha krito mune asampannasva vagjala satyatantasya yad bale dware tadrigavasthanam tuchadana palam kimu rakshanam dushtabanasya kim no mat stava karitam. My dear sage, Bali violated spiritual etiquette by disobeying the order of his spiritual master and failing to be true to his own words. Still, as we know, the Lord agreed to become the guard at Bali's door. Was that simply the fruit of Bali's insignificant charity? The Lord also granted protection to the wicked Varna. Was that the result of my offering the Lord prayers? Because the personality of God has blessed Bali Maharaj by becoming his doorkeeper, someone might suggest that Bali received more mercy than Prahlad. But according to Lord Shiva, this is not true. Rather, Lord Vishnu favored Bali only because Bali was Prahlad's grandson. Fighting for the demons against the demigods, Bali overturned the law of the universe set by Lord Brahma that the demigod should rule heaven, the demons, the subterranean Patala Loka. Maryada Brahmana Vidya, Lord Brahma has arranged for certain limits. Setuku, Devanam Swargadhipatyam. The Devas are meant to rule over Swarga. Daityanam cha Pataladhipatyam. The Daityas are meant to rule over Patala. Ityadi Lakshmaha. Tat Atikrama Karturapi Aindrapada Yajna Bhaga Surya Chandra Vicara Grahana. By invading heaven, usurping the throne of Indra, and awarding the posts of various demigods like Surya and Chandra to demons, Bali violated this natural order. In other words, only those with a certain amount of punya are allowed to have certain posts within the cosmic governmental order. But Bali Maharaj, he broke this order. Bali also disobeyed specific instructions from his spiritual master Shukracharya. Shukra warned Bali not to give anything to Vamanadev, even though Bali had offered Lord Vamana his choice of gifts and charity. By committing the worst possible crime of denying one's spiritual master's order, Bali earned Shukracharya's curse. Srila Shukadev Goswami describes this in the Bhagavatam. Evam ashradhitam shishyam anadesha karam guruhu chashapad daiva prahitaha satya sandham manasvinam. The spiritual master Shukracharya, inspired by the Supreme Lord, cursed his exalted disciple Bali Maharaj, who was so magnanimous and fixed in truth that instead of respecting the spiritual master's instructions, he wanted to disobey them. Vamanaya pratishrutam sarvam satyam na kuru. Don't fulfill whatever you have promised to Vamana. Give only a little bit. This is what basically Shukra had told Bali. But Bali didn't do that. And that can be seen in the 8th canto. After being cursed for agreeing to give Lord Vamana what he had asked, Bali could not even provide the charity he had offered. Vamana Dev covered the entire universe with only 2 steps, and no land remained on which he could place his third. Thus, Bali's elegant words promising charity became an empty promise. So he could not fulfill his promise. He had told the Lord, Yad yad vato vanchasi tat pratichame Pamarthinam viprasutanutarkaye Gam kanchanam gunavadhama mrishtam Tathanapeyam utava viprakanyam Graman samriddhams Turagan gajanva rathams Tatharhat tamasam praticha. O son of a Brahmana, it appears that you have come here to ask me for something. Therefore, whatever you want, you may take from me. O best of those who are worshipable, you may take from me a cow, gold, horses, elephants, chariots, a furnished house, prosperous villages, palatable food and drink, the daughter of a Brahmana for your wife, or whatever you desire. So this is what he had promised. When Vamanadev submitted a request that seemed too modest, Bali laughed at him and said, Aho Brahmana Dayada Vachaste Vriddha Sammatah Tvam Balo Balisha Matihi Swartham Pratyabhudo Yatha. O son of a Brahmana, your instructions are as good as those of learned and elderly persons. Nonetheless, you are a boy and your intelligence is insufficient. Thus, you are not very prudent in regard to your self-interest. So that was the second time he promised. And when Vamanadev insisted that he wanted nothing more than as much land as he could cover with 3 steps, Bali replied with confidence, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Ityuktasah asan praha vanchata pratigrihyata. When the Lord had thus spoken, Bali smiled and told him, all right, take whatever you like. So 2 times he has promised, but he could not fulfill what he had promised. But when his promise proved impossible to fulfill, these proud words became a reason for Bali to become ashamed. It seems that Bali did not give away anything very important, just the 3 insignificant material words and then his own body. Padam tatiyam kurushishime nijam. Please place your 3rd lotus footstep on my head. Vamanadev's becoming Bali's doorkeeper could not have been the result of just this meager charity Lord Shiva proposes. The Lord must have reciprocated with Bali in this way because Bali's grandfather Prahlad was a great soul and a great devotee of Vishnu. Now we should remember that Bali also tried to he was always respectful to Prahlad Maharaj. In fact, even before he went to conquer Swarga, he went and offered his respects to Prahlad Maharaj. He remembered Prahlad Maharaj when he surrendered unto Lord Vamana also. Bali did not, he was not actually a follower of his father, he was rather a follower of his grandfather. So therefore, Lord Shiva, he detects that the Supreme Lord reciprocated with Bali in this manner. The Lord must have reciprocated with Bali in this way because Bali's grandfather Prahlad was a great soul and a dear devotee of Vishnu. See, it's a question of whom you are following. Bali was a son of Virochana, but he was a follower of Prahlad Maharaj. With that in mind only, he surrendered unto the Lord. Bali did not deserve this benediction because he was a violator of the universal order, a transgressor of his guru's order, and a breaker of promises. We see in this world that as a general rule, in exchange for worthless trifles, nothing substantial can be obtained. Bali's petty charity, therefore, could not have purchased the personality of Godhead, who is the embodiment of eternal knowledge and bliss. That charity certainly could not have resulted in the Lord's entering Bali's household entourage. The only feasible explanation for Bali's good fortune is the intimate exchange of Prema Bhakti between Prahlad Maharaj and his worshipable Lord. Here, okay. Mithya vastuna, satya vastuna, kasyachit kathanchit api praptir lokepi na drishyate. It is not seen that you get something real for something false. Tat katham sachidananda ghanasya bhagavata praptihi. So then how could he attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is concentrated eternity, knowledge and bliss? Tatrapi dwara palakataya. On top of it, he as a gatekeeper. Paramat tukshat trailokya danadina khadatam. How could he attain all of this just by giving in charity the most insignificant 3 words? Ato Bhagavat Priti Hetu Prahlada Vishayaka Sachidanandamaya Prema Bhaktiyaiva Tatha Praptihi Sambhavati. It is only possible because of the Sachidananda Prema Bhakti of Prahlad Maharaj, which brought about such satisfaction in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In defense of Bali, someone might argue from the statements of Shastra that Prahlad had blessed Bali with the gift of pure devotion for the Lord, and on the strength of that devotion, he achieved the Lord. Another example is therefore given here, that of Banasura, a much more wicked person. Other than the Lord's compassion for Prahlad, there can be no reason for Bana's salvation. Not even Lord Shiva's interference on Bana's behalf could have saved Bana's life when Krishna was about to kill him. Nor could Bana have achieved the perfection of having all but 4 of his arms removed. Nor would Lord Krishna have made Bana Lord Shiva's eternal associate. Now here, Bana, he is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord. He did not surrender to Lord Vishnu. He did not surrender to Krishna. He is just himself. Still, Krishna was so kind to him. That is also because of Prahlad. Banasura was so wicked that he even dared challenge Lord Shiva, his object of worship. Namasye tvam ahadeva lokanam gurumishwaram pumsam apurna kamanam kamapuramaranghripam dosahasram tvayadattam param bharaya me bhavat trilokyam pratiyodharam naleve tvad rate sama. O Lord Mahadeva, I bow down to you, the spiritual master and controller of the worlds. You are like the heavenly tree that fulfills the desires of those whose desires are unfulfilled. These 1,000 arms you bestowed upon me have become merely a heavy burden. Besides you, I find no one in the 3 worlds worthy for me to fight. Bana had also abandoned the devotion to Lord Vishnu that was traditional in his family. Instead, he became an enemy of the Vaishnavas, demigods and Brahmanas like an ordinary demon. He arrested Lord Krishna's grandson Aniruddha, fought against Krishna and committed other offenses described in various Puranas. Lord Shiva here asks, was it because of my prayers that Sri Krishna excused Bana for all his nonsense? Of course not, Lord Shiva insists. Only because of Prahlad's pure devotion did Lord Krishna deliver Banasura. Offenses against Vaishnavas, such as those Bana committed, can be absolved only by the Vaishnava's mercy. It was by Prahlad's grace that his grandson Bali and great-grandson Bana were dealt with favorably by the Lord. The only reason the Lord pardoned them for their offenses and elevated them was to please Prahlad. So this gives us an indication of how dear Prahlad Maharaj is to the Supreme Lord. Even from Chaitanya Bhagavat, we learn that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had Gadadhar Pandit Prabhu read out from the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam the chapters that describe Prahlad Maharaj's life 100 times. He had Gadadhar Pandit read out and explain those 10 chapters. Charit, 7th canto, chapters 1 to 10, 100 times. Now we know Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, and we know that Sri Gadadhar is an incarnation of Radharani. You can see how much they like Prahlad Maharaj. And 100 times they like to hear about the glories of Prahlad as stated in great detail in Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Questions? An interesting section. So this Prabhu, just give me a minute, 1 minute. Let me just. So this Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Your voice is broken. Is it because of my connection or your connection?
Prabhuji, I have a small doubt. Now, my connection, Prabhu. Okay, let me go outside. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. So, I have a simple question, Prabhu. But we also see that Bali Maharaj has been promoted to the position of Mahajana. So, then how we can say that it was...
That is also must be because of listening to Prahlad. Because he became a follower of Prahlad. So that's what happens when you follow Prahlad Maharaj. And this is exactly what Lord Nrsimhadev had told Prahlad Maharaj, that you would be the standard of comparison for devotion service. And devotees in the future will also follow you. That began with his own grandson.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Anything else? Otherwise, I'll just make a note that should resume next week from what is this, 84, 1.3.84 next week. All right. Anshakalpatarubhyasya kripasinubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.